So hey guys, it's Ziant again, and this is a regular commentary because I feel like I need to do at least one of these every now and again when I'm uploading these live comms, because for the first part, they do get more views, and that is something that, while not really important to me, you know, I like getting views and subscribers, and so these allow me to do that and to really get back to my roots and play some first-person shooters. But beyond that, I wanted to talk today about something that I think, especially for Battlefield 3, and also for Call of Duty, and Gears of War, and Halo, and any multiplayer game where you're spending a lot of time in-game, and eventually it gets old. Invariably, it gets old, but we still play it. And I wanted to sort of dissect, I think, why we do that sort of thing. Now, in a game like Call of Duty, where there are some very distinct challenges, and there's a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of guns along with those challenges, and there are some metagame challenges, well, you know, there's a lot more to do. So even though I am a Prestige Master in Black Ops 2, yes, I played a little too much, but there is really nothing left for me to unlock. I have completed all the leveling in that game, and so I have all the weapons, I have all the streaks, I have all of the other this and the other thing, and now all that's left for me to do are the challenges. And that's what gets me playing that game. It's not that I really want to play the game for the game's sake, but I want to play the game for the metagame, for the game within the game, so to speak. Xbox Ahoy talks a lot about that, and the fact that he plays Call of Duty not so much because it's a really great game anymore, because there's a lot of stuff to do within the game itself. He likes completing challenges. He likes completing all of these things. And I find myself in a similar situation. I've not diamonded all of the assault rifles yet, and so all I have left is the SMR, the second single-shot rifle, and I'm having a lot of trouble getting the headshots for it. But that gives me something to do. It gives me a reason to play. It gives me a reason to vary up my play style. And it keeps me playing. Now, for a game like Battlefield, where all the DLC is out, I don't like half the DLC, and a lot of people play the DLC, and I've got all the weapons that I like to use, and that even though when I'm not using a weapon I'm used to, they all feel very similar, at least to me, it's harder for me to play Battlefield. And for me, close quarters, what you're seeing on screen, is more variety in the Battlefield formula than Endgame, than Strike at Karkand, and Aftermath. It gives me a faster-paced, more fun experience. Now, I didn't mention Armored Kill in that list because Armored Kill for me was a humongous change of pace. Because while it's about as Battlefieldy as it gets, and it doesn't change too much about the formula, everything in that game mode, in that DLC, is spontaneous. The jumps, the tanks, the helicopters, the AC-130, even though it's on rails, everything about that for me is, there's a lot of spontaneity, a lot of extra stuff in there that it makes it a lot of fun for me. Now, granted, I haven't played it a lot recently, but I have been playing much Battlefield recently, due in large part to the fact that I'm just bored of it. And, you know, there's nothing left for me to unlock. There's nothing left, no more challenges for me to do. Double XP weekend is a worthless endeavor, and my score per minute is more than high enough. So for me, there's really nothing left to do. I mean, I could learn to fly a chopper or fly a jet, but that doesn't give me any real reward. For whatever reason, it just doesn't. Whereas in Call of Duty, there's only been one DLC, but on PC, at the very least, no one plays the DLC anymore. So for me, it's still very much alive and kicking. I love all of those maps. Now, granted, Grind is the best. Mirage is stupid with the spawns. Downhill is a snipe fest. And Hydro, it's not terrible, but it's not gonna make any real headway as far as greatest maps ever. But I can go back to it, and then there's still a lot of freshness there for me. But you see me playing Bioshock Infinite, and that's given me a new whole lease on my gaming life. You don't see me playing Far Cry 3 again. You don't see me playing Skyrim again, because in those games I've added mods. And I've talked about this before, but when you're at a game where it's gotten to the point that it's boring, you have to find some way to make it fresh again. And when there's no way to make it fresh, you have to find ways within the game itself to do that. And then, of course, there comes that time when the game is boring completely. but you're invested enough in the series that you want to keep playing it. And the question becomes, how do I do that? Well, I've mentioned before that you make challenges that are outside of the game mechanics, or you get into with your friends and make up new game modes. But in a game like Battlefield, where I don't play with my friends as often as I'd like to, and because there's no real challenge left in the game for me, how do I come back and have fun? The short and dirty answer is, I play to win, and I play to win all the time. In Battlefield, for me, there aren't a lot of silly setups. Way back, I did the Giggle series, which was me using some really funky looking setups. But the problem with that series was, A, I didn't have any investment in it, but more importantly, most of the weapons in Battlefield, for me, are useful and effective and fairly simple to use. One of the disagreements I have with Culprit's opinions is that he feels like Battlefield, the weapons don't give him variety. And I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. The weapons in Battlefield, I feel, don't have much variety. Due in large part to the fact that their damage model, and I've harped on this a ton, is exactly wrong. Every assault rifle, barring like 2, do the exact same amount of damage, and the only defining factor is the recoil. The burst fire weapons in Battlefield 3 are essentially full auto, as long as you can shoot fast enough, because there is no fire rate cap. Whereas in Call of Duty, there's a very, very definite fire rate cap, and I have to really learn to aim, whereas with Battlefield 3, I can just spam the KH-2000, the M16A4, and I can succeed. So when I go into something like Close Quarters, or when I go into something like Aftermath, I feel like I have to try my brains out, and that's how I'm keeping those game modes alive. But when I mention Armored Kill, I'll go back to that again. I have fun in that because it's just silly. Armored Kill for me is not Battlefield in the sense of, you know, it's objective, and there's team-based, and there's vehicles. It's just silly as far as I'm concerned. And so ultimately what's going to happen for me, I think, is I'm going to start playing Armored Kill more, and I'm going to start playing Close Quarters more, and I'm going to start just doing things like you're seeing on screen right now, using the M16 with iron sights and a laser sight, going hard all the time, or just laughing my ass off. Because visually, I've seen everything there is to see, and gameplay-wise, I've done pretty much everything there is to do. And for that reason, I'm going to fall back on the old standby of go hard all the time and hope other people do as well. I will be using different guns. I still love the AUG, I love the SCAR, I love the L85, but I'm going to start taking a page out of Culprit's book, and I'm just going to try hard all the time. I'm going to just do as hard as I can, as much objective play as I can, and go for the win as much as I can. I'm going to start using smoke. I'm going to start playing the right kits. I might start using radio beacons a lot more like I did in the beta. I'm going to be doing all these things that make you win instead of make you just be like the rest of the herd. Because Battlefield 4, A, it can't come soon enough, and I don't know if I'll still be playing first-person shooters by that time. I might have graduated into a bunch of single-player RPGs. I don't know yet. But as it stands now, I have to find some way of making old games new, even when the newness is old. And that's a problem I have, and it's a problem that needs solving. And I want to hear what you guys have to say on the matter. How do you make old games new, and once that newness wears off, how do you keep the old games that are old at least playable?